Hello and welcome to Healing Tips from the Heart, Intuition with Helpers, Healers, and Guides. I am your host, Dr. Lori Hops, licensed psychologist, writer, and artist. I've explored mind, body, and spirit related to intuition, or your personal guidance system, since early childhood. Meet my guests who have learned from their personal and professional lives to explore vast realms of knowing, synchronicities, and overcoming challenges. Their stories may inspire you with tools to enhance your daily living and relationships. Hello and welcome everyone with my special guest today, Amy Frost. Amy and I know each other through the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology, and Amy has an MBA and a master's in spiritual psychology, and she's helped people in their work and career transitions with career development and self-resilient tools and techniques. She's been a long-standing member of the Humanitarian Committee for many years and has worked extensively with veterans, their spouses, and adult children. Along with Dr. Kristin Miller, they have participated for more than 3 years with Veteran to Veteran Healing Project in Las Vegas, Nevada. She has also worked for the Department of Defense for more than 20 years as a contract negotiator, contracting officer, and total quality management facilitator and trainer. She's taught at the University of Phoenix, and she has won numerous awards, including in 2018 from ACEP, a Humanitarian of the Year award, and in 2021 received the Adopt-A-Cop Nevada Bearer of Light Award. And she is a proud founding member of an organization called Flowerful Living Community, which we may hear more about from her. So welcome, Amy. It's so good to see you.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here. And thank you so much for having me and for doing this important work.
Oh, yes, thank you. So is there anything else you wanted to add to what you want people to know about you, or?
Yeah, I'll just kind of dive in, and I know that we can, dovetail, which
Yeah.
I'm very excited about. I love these kind of conversations with the Veteran to Veteran project.
Mm-hmm.
That was, like 3 years that we actively did it in Vegas, but we prepared for a couple of years before, and the work has been ongoing since. And it was working with leaders in the veteran community, which we have an amazing veteran community here in Las Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and we're doing a lot of things that are being nationally recognized and being taken elsewhere. And so we got people from all over the community, and we did training not only with veteran community leaders, but also veterans and their family members. Because one of the things we really uncovered, I think we already knew it, but I mean, we really figured it out when we were doing that project, that healing project, that if you didn't work with the caregivers, the family, the veteran, male or female, was probably not going to go get the help. My husband is a veteran, and if I don't push him and do energy work with him, he will not do it. And he was part of the project. But one of the things that was really interesting with that project, we finished, we didn't ever really finish, but April 2017, the official part. And then we had circles all over the community, and it was a vet to vet project. So for us, we didn't come in as the experts. What we did is we came in and taught tools, and we had them using them. So it ended in April 2017. And October 1st, 2017, we had the mass shooting.
Can you explain a little bit about that for people?
Yeah, so in Vegas, it was at Mandalay Bay, and it was a shooter, and there were many people. 59 were killed, and at least 600 people were wounded. And one of the things from that is we had veterans. We have a lot of veterans in this community, a lot of combat veterans. My husband runs the military and veteran center out at UNLV, and there were many veterans when the shooting was happening at the library. and they were told to, hunker down, don't leave. But that's not what a veteran will do. They went into the line of fire to help pull people out. So I knew a lot of people that were directly affected. Everybody in our community was affected. And so, but the beauty of having all these circles that we already created, I could go to the leaders of the circles and support them. So that it was hard, but it was like, yay, we already got something built, in our community. And, just with my own experience with military, I never served in the military, but I was born on an Air Force base. I grew up in it. I worked for the Department of Defense for 20 years,
Mhm.
hand in glove with military. My husband, Tom, died in Desert Storm. Again, my husband Ross, we've been together 26 years. And it's really interesting. People don't understand the difference between really being active duty and veteran, and the difference and the transition that is. And not only do the veteran make the transition, but also do their families.
Yeah.
That's not really recognized. So that's a large part of what my work is about, is really that transition as a veteran family member, and it's a big one that most people don't recognize.
Wow. Yeah, you've woven together in just a few minutes so many important topics. And so just to summarize and kind of catch my own brain up with you, and maybe the listener who's not familiar with our work, is that it sounds like what you did is you had you spent a long time planning an intervention program to support veterans, not active duty, and their support people to that adjustment transition time, because we think of that as like, that was something I did. But it's still alive in my family, in my heart, in my experience. And so you help create hands-on tools that people can use for self-care, right? And also
Self-care, resilience, staying in the game. I mean, that's the main thing. Staying in the game, whatever the game is.
Okay. And so those resilience tools, and you did not know, of course, that this tragedy was about to happen just a few short months later. And so now, although it's veterans and their families, it's an active shooter scenario that's happening where people have to survive as best they can in the moment, and it pulls up all of those associations. And so you're dealing with the here and now, but also the past. So thankfully you had some of those tools in place already for several months. But then you were able to connect with the group leaders from these circles, community group circles, yep. Right?
Yes.
And then kind of help reinforce for them personally, and then they can disseminate more information and support to their people. Is that an accurate summary?
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful one. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And again, it alleviated some of the pressure from me. And I think Dr. Miller and I, one of the things that we really learned from that was, wow, you want to go into a community before there's a need. Yeah. You want to be the trusted resource before there's a need.
Yeah.
And, and since then, of course, we've had COVID. We've had, Afghanistan. That was a big issue for a lot of veterans who had been there. And then all of a sudden, all their work they felt didn't matter. So there's been a lot of really good work to do. And knowing that they have the tools, and I'll anywhere, everywhere, teach these tools. And for me, it's not about teaching people to be certified in any energy medicine or energy psychology technique. It's about, how do you make the next decision? When do I get in that car? Do I go there? Do I say this? Do I do that? And so one thing I'd love to share is the tool I teach everybody everywhere.
Great.
It doesn't matter who it is. If I'm in the boardroom, I'm working with youth at risk, it doesn't matter. And people really get it, and they immediately respond. So what I say is, for all of us, we have things going on, and we might have a little bit of stress. We all do. And so here's one of my favorite techniques, and I want to do it with you. So what I have them do is rub their hands together. I mean, real basic stuff. rub their hands together, maybe, feel like, and for course, a lot of people I'm working with have never done anything like this. So I just like to keep it fun. And, so I have them do that. And then I said,
so let me slow you down just for a moment for
yeah,
those
yeah,
who
yeah.
can't see what we're doing. So can you describe, you rubbed your hands together,
Right,
maybe
rub your
they heard
hand
that
together
rubbing.
and then put your palms facing each other and
Yeah.
then bring them closer and pull them apart and imagine, if you can feel it even, that there's a ball of energy in between your hands.
Okay.
And you may feel it, you may not. Either way is perfect, but it might be something to play with, right? So then I have them take their hands and put them over their heart and their chest. And I tell them, have you ever used a weighted blanket? And this is kind of like using a weighted blanket, and even just doing this and kind of pushing in a little bit, can be calming. And in my world, in my community, they call me the girl who breathes. So this is so let's do that. And so I talk about, and I said, there's lots of great techniques. One of my favorite is called 4-7-8. And so like, well, and it's very simple. You breathe into 4, you hold to 7, you release at 8. And so let's try that. And so I have them breathe in, breathe into 4.
4 counts.
4 counts.
4 seconds.
Hold to 7. Breathe out to 8.
And you can breathe out through your mouth or your nose, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter to me. The bottom line is right now, and again, I don't want anybody to get caught up in technique. This is about, I need to reset. I need to make a next decision. And sometimes, ideally 3 times, we're going to do it 3 times. But if you can only do it once, do it once. But make sure you do it. And what I'm working on is making this a habit. And it doesn't have to be the 4-7-8. I don't care what it is, but to do it. And that it's your first reaction before, when you need to do something. So we're going to do it 3 times. The second time, we're going to breathe into the count of 4. Hold to the count of 7. Breathe out to 8. And at this point, I talk about heart math and the heartmath.org, and that they do mind-body studies. And it's an amazing resource. I encourage you to go look at it. There's lots of great tools and lots of great resources there. So making this the heart breath, what I want you to do is imagine in your mind's eye something that brings you great peace or joy, or it could be a place. I'm going to go to the beach. My toes are going to be in the sand. I'm going to smell the ocean. I'll feel the breeze. So that's what I'm experiencing. So whatever it is that brings you peace and joy, now I want you or me, I want you to breathe that into your heart. Now imagine that image, that feeling, that smell is entirely going through your entire body, filling up every cell, filling up every part of you. And when you breathe out, you're going to breathe out anything that's not that image. You don't have to do that, but that's kind of fun. And I get some laughing, but they don't forget it. They don't forget it. And then, like, I have an ongoing group I'm working with, women veterans and women spouses, monthly now. And we start every meeting that way. And what I work to do is to get them to do it.
Yeah.
Not me leading it, right? But us doing it
together. Yeah, and having them take the ownership for it. Yep. So I love that technique. I've seen it many times. Sometimes they have different counts. And so whatever works for you, I would say, is what you should use. You can modify it. And like you said, the important thing is to do it. And the importance of this is what? Because you said when you have kind of a scrambled brain, you don't know what to do next. You feel confused. How does stopping and taking these breaths help you?
For me, it resets my system. It helps me to slow down just a little bit, because most of the time, if we're being forced to make a decision, it's probably something we're not ready to do. And most of the time you can, you at least 3 breaths, maybe at least 1, that you can stop and take the time. Like I say, I used to teach critical thinking and decision making at University of Phoenix. And those were middle level managers most of the time, and that were getting education in order to advance in their career. And how I tricked them right into doing this work is saying that, when you're going to make a decision, it's better if you have have oxygen in your brain.
Yeah.
And so So just taking that time to nothing else, take one nice deep breath and release. And,
Yes.
adding doing the vision part, I really like that. And after I work with people about that for a while, then I'll say, okay, great, imagine something with peace. But now let's move it into imagine the situation that you need to kind of center about going perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so then you've set yourself up. One of my favorite stories with this, I was working with, well, a good friend, long term, like 20 years, combat veteran, and she's transitioned. She's in a fabulous career, married, kids, doing great. And recently, she and I and another friend were meeting at a farmer's market. Yay! So I get there early because I'm that girl. I get there early, and I'm in the parking lot, and she calls me, and she's very upset. I'm like, okay, what's going on? She said, again, combat veteran, something happened. I'm driving, but I'm having a thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, can you get over? No, I can't get over. Okay, you want keep one hand on the steering wheel, tap with the other one, and breathe. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm
Mm.
okay. And breathe as gently as you can. And we kind of did that for a little bit. And she said, I'm okay. I said, great. Do you want to go home? No, I want to come to play with you guys. Great. So I just kind of stayed with her till we got her there. But she does a lot of this stuff herself now. And she'll call me or text me and said, I had this challenging situation. And I just immediately moved into that.
That's so
And
great.
she's training people she works with, which is
Fabulous.
and for me, it's the ripples.
Yes. Yeah. So what was it exactly she did? You said tap. Can you describe?
Um, well, you mean just your karate chopping the steering wheel.
So
So
you're basically putting the side of your hand,
yes,
which has connection
thank
to
you.
the meridians for that will help you to calm down and to stay focused. And so you're just pressing gently against a hard surface. It could be your hand, but for her it was a steering wheel while she was
And they're
also
going to make sure to,
driving.
keep the other one on. And so they're great. We've got to keep that level of safety. And
Right.
for me, it's like using these things as real time as possible. What I tell people all the time, these tools are too good to be true, and they work, but they don't work if you don't use them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, those are some great stories and some, we think about panicking and, where am I going to go? So that you're there, that she called you, the story with the library and the people running out to help others, that the training was there ahead of time. And you talk about decision making, and I couldn't help but think about intuition, that's like one of the hallmarks of intuition when it's working well, is that it helps you with decision making, to kind of give you a broader perspective and have creative ideas come in that you wouldn't normally have thought about, especially if you're stressed and you narrow your perception. Intuition broadens you, but you can't get to it when you're stressed. So the breath is a wonderful bridge, also the tapping. Then I'm thinking about other ways that we have helpers, healers, and guides. So I'm wondering if maybe you have some things that you can remember or like to share about helpers, healers, and guides.
For me, how do I want to say this? I was really young. I don't remember how old, but really young, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about this stuff. But I remember saying to, I don't know whom, but just saying, I know I have this power,
Mm.
and I choose to use it for good,
Mm.
not evil.
Mm.
And I don't know who the heck I was talking to or why I felt I needed to do that. But I mean, that was like, there was that big shift. And I've always, again, never really had anybody to talk to. Of course, ACEP certainly brought that forward, but really the last 20 years doing A Course in Miracles, part of a group there, and lots of different things where it's like, oh, I'm using this, and I was doing it and not really even knowing what I was doing.
Mm.
And one of my favorite techniques, a career development technique, which is really Barbara Shear. I don't know if you know her work. She wrote Wishcraft. But oh yeah. So one of the techniques that I learned from her, she called it gathering your allies.
Mm.
And so what you would do, you had a problem or something you were wrestling with, when you went to bed, you would ask for, guides, whatever, Einstein, whomever, that could help answer this question. And that when the prayer was, when I wake up, that I will have the answer when I awake.
No.
And I love that practice. I use it all the time. One thing that I discovered, because I had this ability, and it's interesting, I have 4 sisters, and my sister Robin really has an incredible ability, knowing, and talks to angels and all that. And I have a little bit of envy with that, because I don't have it like she has it, but I've really learned to trust I have it like I have it. But
Yes.
that, I had envy over, I was like,
Yeah.
over that. But in doing the work and working with my intuition, and oh, that's really interesting. So somebody's trying to come in intuition wise. And anyway, I was inundated with information. I was overloaded. It was too much. It was too much. It was too much. So again, most of these things nobody taught me. I just had to figure it out, because I didn't feel safe, especially, having the MBA and being in the business world. I got to talk to people about this. So what I did was I asked that I have a project manager guide. That's how I think,
Yeah, yeah.
that would, gather the information and give me what I want when I need it.
Lovely.
And that works really well for me. So I don't tend to be asking a bunch of things. I just like, okay, I'm open, I'm willing, I'm ready. And I just know things that
Yeah.
my intuition is very prophetic. I mean, I
Okay.
certainly do the research, to back it up. Like I used to work for a 3-star general that you couldn't say, I have a feeling, or my intuition is,
Yeah.
but I think it's really important with intuition, whatever your area is that you get really good at it, and you get the education, and you get the training. And I love business. I've always loved business. I like to say my ministry is in the workplace. That's what, because I say we need angels in hell, not in heaven. So, I'm in the trenches, right? Right. So, for me, it's about, and most people are not going to go to self-help. They're not going to go to church. They're not going to go to counseling. Most people have to go to work. And
Yeah.
so, and I'm going to really out myself here. I've been doing employee assistance program work for 20 years. And so they'll call me in, here's a group, here's the title, you have an hour to fix it. It's like, okay, great. So basically I go in and open Pandora's box, it's like,
Yeah.
but I always give them tools.
Yeah.
I always give them tools, because long after I'm gone, that's when the real work, really starts.
Right.
Right.
You wanted to live on. Yes. So as you were talking, you said intuition that someone's coming in. And so right in the moment, you were getting a little knock on the door through your project manager. So they made it through your
Well,
filtering
it's like
system.
a fax on my copier, which is so funny, because I don't receive faxes, so I don't know what that was, but just really paying
Oh,
attention. Isn't that funny? And well, and just I think one important part about intuition that people don't realize is that it comes in so many ways,
right.
and for me, I believe it comes through my learning style. So,
Okay.
and that's a whole nother field of study, but like I'm very kinesthetic. So when
Yeah.
I'm on the right path, my ears get hot.
Okay. So you get a physical
I
sensation.
do. And I didn't ask for this. I just like, give me breadcrumbs. Let me know, because I'm the
Yeah.
kind of person, I don't need a lot of backstory. I
Yeah.
don't need a lot of research. I just like proofs in the pudding. If
Yeah.
this is working, I'm great. So I started noticing I got 3 twos when things were going the right direction, and maybe 4 twos or more, but the more twos, the more I was. And anybody that hangs around me very long starts noticing there's twos everywhere, in phone numbers, addresses, all kinds of crazy ways.
Interesting.
I didn't ask for that. I just started noticing. And
Interesting.
so for me, it's just like, you've got to find your own unique way of
Yeah.
how the intuition comes in. And like you're saying, trauma blocks it, anxiety blocks it.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying, that when move, you get your brain is, oh, I don't know. That's when you have to stop.
Yeah.
You have
Slow
to
down.
stop and
Yep.
slow down. I tell you, one of my favorite in teaching critical thinking. Of course, I'm a studier. I'm a work addict. I'm going to get all the information I can. And when I was teaching it, I found an article by Peter Drucker, who I love. I love his work. And he wrote an article about how you never have to make a decision. And I was like, well, crap, why am I teaching this class? This makes no sense. So I read the article, and what he said is you learn to ask really good questions.
Mm-hmm.
You listen for the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know, you know.
Okay. It's an interesting flip on making a decision. It's more that you arrive at the right answer. It presents itself. Yeah, that's a very interesting concept, and one that's challenging to believe in sometimes, because we have that pressure feeling that we need to make decisions, and that maybe decisions are, it's not apparent what the right one is. That they're all kind of like equal when they're not. Yeah, I work similarly with people with having little cards or a sticky note that represent different aspects of decision making or problems. And each one has its own personality, and that you have your own response to it. And as you sift through the decision making process, some of them become brighter or more intense, and others sort of fade away. And so if you start off with, let's say, 3 or 4 of them, after a few minutes, maybe 2 of them become irrelevant. And so then you can put those away, and to have that physical representation of decision making in front of you sometimes shifts things, because we get so caught in our heads, and to like literally look at something outside yourself that represents it can be a helpful technique. It's not exactly an intuitive approach. It's probably more from Gestalt therapy. But
where does it, intuition and intellect, diverge? I mean, I think, they are so intertwined, or they can be, and I was in a workshop with Alan Cohen a million years ago. And one of the techniques he had us do is put your hand in your heart and ask your heart, what would your heart do?
Yeah.
Right. And you can ask your head, what would you do?
Yeah.
Okay, let's negotiate, or which one, rings more true. And an exercise that I taught people in decision making, very simple, said you've got to come up with a yes or no answer. It can't be complicated. Yes or no.
Yeah.
Then I have them take a couple nice deep breaths and close their eyes, and then imagine a stoplight, and then ask the question and see what color comes up.
Okay. Do you work with people who have a hard time visualizing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, so, again, depending on your learning style, where do you feel it in your body? Do you hear something? Do you smell something?
Okay.
So that's it. When for me, visualization really isn't just seeing. It's, it's all the senses. Again, I don't see, and I don't hear, but I hear things. You know what I mean? It's hard to describe. What I like to say, especially with my husband, is like, I'm not knowing everything, but when I know, you don't want to you don't want to go against it. And you've seen it play out enough time, so you don't want to bet against me, because
I thought you were going to say you don't want to be my opponent.
well, that too. Be smart enough to know that. Really interesting how he is probably the most intuitive person I know. I call him the manifester, because he can see things and make them happen, but he's very very logical too. But he really combines the two really beautifully, so it makes it fun when we're making decisions together and creating together.
Well, that's the marriage, of the mind, the heart, the soul, the different parts of the brain, all of it together. That's how we're really supposed to be oriented. And, we've moved from our heart up to our heads, and we're walking around unbalanced, and then getting back into the gut too, that gut knowing. So are there other like handy techniques or resilience tools that might be useful for people? We did the breath and the heart, and you have some imagery suggestions, paying attention to things like numbers. I mean, you've already given quite a few.
Yeah, and I think it is the number one thing is be a detective for yourself.
Okay.
Maybe the next month, get a journal and start noticing. They say things come in 2s or 3s or whatever. But if you don't catch it, let's say 3s, if you don't catch it the first 2 times, how are you going to know it's the third?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, and start getting acquainted maybe with the different ways that things come in your body, in smelling and knowing and in different ways, and that you can, I think it's just so exciting to me that you can use these techniques anywhere you are,
Yes.
and in any situation. People who are very successful at work are doing this. They
Yeah.
may not be telling you they're doing this,
Yeah.
they are doing this.
Well, creatives too, the dream world, and
Absolutely.
scientists and so on. So people, anything with new ideas, that edge of creating something new. And, also people who are working with their bodies. So they may not have the language to describe their intuition, but they get a sense of, I'm going to pick up this cart and not that. I'm going to turn right versus left, or, who you can trust, or you get a funny feeling about something. And so, and it's just instinct. You just kind of go off of it.
And I've done a lot of work with teaching people how to, deal with difficult people and difficult situations, violence at work prevention.
Oh
And
my.
yeah, and so, I like to say it's like building a muscle.
Yeah.
And it's like you've got to really listen, and it may be a feeling, it may be, just, you're hearing something, whatever. Again, it can come in many different ways. But I remember I was on a business trip when I was working for the government, and I think it was in Salt Lake City, and I got in the elevator, and there were a couple of guys in there, and the door shut, and it just really felt bad. And so I ended up pushing a different floor where one of the other people I
Mm-hmm.
worked with was at. And I bolted out of there and ran to her room and I don't know what would have happened, but it felt really bad,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was like, no, don't go to your floor,
Yeah.
right? Go to where there's somebody else. And again, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened, but I was
Yeah.
in a city I didn't know. I was in a building I really didn't know. And I had little bits of data. And that's how for me, righted the situation.
That's so great that you listened, because we second guess ourselves.
It's easy to,
Oh,
right?
I'm
So maybe
imagining
you
it.
can.
Maybe I'm off, it's probably just me, or
And I'm tough. I can handle it.
yeah, I'll be
You know,
fine. I don't want, yeah. And then, to not go back and say, oh, I should have stayed in the elevator. I probably was fine. Maybe I was imagining it. It's just like you weren't comfortable. You listened to your instincts. You got out of there, and you thankfully had a safe place to be. Yeah.
it was like really amazing to me that I was able to figure all that out that fast. But it
Yeah.
was like, because I don't think it was all me. See that, right?
Right. Your project manager was on it.
That's right. It was like, okay, go to the other floor. Yeah. And luckily, she was there and answered. I mean, yeah.
Right.
And I just hung out there for a while, and
Yep.
but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have plenty of those moments. And even, it doesn't have to be complicated. Like what's, a technique, I don't know if, muscle testing, I'm sure you do that, but
Yeah.
traditional muscle testing doesn't really work for me. So
Uh-huh.
what I do is I use my body. Do you
That's
know
a
what
sway
I'm talking about?
test.
The sway test. And that works really well for me. I don't know. Are you feel comfortable explaining the sway test?
Yeah. Do you want me to, or you
I would
can?
love you to, because I just do it. I don't know that I'm not really an expert. I
Okay,
just
so
do
the
it.
idea here is that our bodies register basically yes and no. So things that we move towards, things that we move away from. And this is not about muscles, it's more about the flow of information. So for example, if you're going to give someone some bad news, typically what we say is, are you seated? Because
Mm.
we know that there's a weakness that comes over you when you're dealing with something heavy. Where you wouldn't say that to someone who's like, I've got some good news, are you
I won
sitting
the
down?
lottery.
So we have more like a flow of energy that strengthens us and infuses us with like a yes, a strong yes, but if we get a strong no, or even a mild no, we may have a temporary loss of kind of our vitality. And so you can use this in a very subtle communication way, where you build a vocabulary in yourself of what does that yes and that no look like. And for some people, they find when they stand, and maybe they put their hands on their belly, or their hands by their legs, that you have a slight lean forward to a yes. So similar to what Amy was saying in the beginning, where you have that strong yes of, oh, I love being in this place. Think about that. Bring it up as much as you can, the thoughts, the feelings, the smells, the tastes, the sights, and see, does your body move forward or some other way? And then take a breath, shake it out, and then think of a no. So it can't, maybe not something horrible, but something that's distasteful, that you don't like, or that's uncomfortable or makes you feel a little nervous. See, does your body sway? Typically it sways away or back. And so the more you practice this, the more you get a yes or a no. So you could say, do I prefer to write today with a pencil, yes or no, or a pen, yes or no? And I can even hold it on my body and see, do I have a lean to or a lean back for either one, or eating an orange versus an apple, or having some water right now, or making a decision about something else. Should I work on this project for the next half an hour, or that? Should I call this person now or later? So I don't know if that maps onto what
That's
you do.
fantastic. And even recently I had a couple of really great opportunities to do presentations, but I had to choose one because they were in conflict with each other.
Okay.
And I did that. And I don't know which one's a better decision, but to me, I guess they're kind of equal. That's why I was willing to do that. And I had thought it out in my head. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna, do that sway test. And I feel comfortable with the answer.
Great.
And I think part of with, decision making too is also knowing that, I get to make another decision again. So it's not like, one decision is forever and, just
Right.
really, keep yourself calm. Okay, it's just the next step.
Yes.
It's just the next step.
And
I
it
think
gives you information. Sometimes you don't always have completion towards that second idea that you chose instead of the first one, but it maybe gives you more information. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to find out more information about why. And so it may be like, it's not like, oh, this was a bad decision. It just wasn't the right timing. Someone will
Yeah,
say,
that's a
oh,
good point.
I was going to offer you this and we were set for Monday, but actually I wound up getting sick. And so we needed to postpone it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that when I made the decision. So now I can do both choices.
Right.
But if I had let
right.
go of the other choice for Monday, that was a one and done. And so if I had said no to them, it wouldn't have happened at all. And now I get to do both, so you don't always know why you choose.
I think most of the time you don't, and you
Yeah.
may never know the end result.
Yeah.
But I think part of it, if we're given that information, so at least for me, let's go with me, that is like just validating, yes, you did, you were following guidance. And I think that's it. It's like, because I'm that kind of girl. It's helpful to me to get, validation, that, oh yeah, and I'm pretty firm about if I really get to do something, I'm going to go do it, even if it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't make sense to people that are close to me, unless of course it's a big going to impact them, then we have to negotiate our way through that.
Yes. Ooh, so many tools.
Well, and then well, think about that. We don't have to, this could be a long discussion in terms of this, but when you're making a decision with a group, right? Now, I'm assuming, I'm just saying this, I never really thought about it. There's a group intuition.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And so, but you've got individual intuitions within that group.
Right.
And so you've got to consider that too.
Yeah. They call it the field.
Yeah.
There's layers of nested fields within each other, in yourself, mind, body, spirit, and then within a dynamic or a dyad. Like we have a field now of listeners and watchers, an audience that's not physically here with us, but is part of the field that we're creating, not just us recording. And that's over time and space. So, and then beyond, anyway. But we've shared so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share about healing tips from the heart, or helpers, healers, and guides with intuition?
What I've really learned, and what I'm working with now for myself and others, is you got to know yourself, have a practice. I don't care what it is. You got to, whether meditation, I believe there's lots of ones. I don't advocate for any particular one. Know yourself, connect to source, whatever source is for you. Have a practice daily, weekly, monthly, yearly that you're doing, and have a team of people that you're ongoingly getting support from. And that's part of, we talked a little bit about Flowerful Living, and through the pandemic, there was a group of us that met every week, and a lot of times more than every week. And we realized the power of us coming together and creating these circles. So what I see next is, I'm really not about group work. I mean, individual work. I'm really guided to do group work and create processes. That's, I think, more my calling. And so for me, it's about bringing these circles together. And it's not necessarily running the circles, but kind of what I see us doing is teaching people how to create their circles of safety, their circles of support, and then supporting those circles and getting, as many as those together. You'd sent me some questions, and one of them I kind of want to address, talked about the best advice I ever got.
Ah,
And I want to share this. My good friend, Lisa Lynn, she's a world-renowned Celtic harpist. And she was pretty famous for that, making a good living doing that. And then she accidentally found out about music and healing and started doing these amazing work. And she was at the City of Hope, and she and I did programs together. And one of the things she always said to me, she said, find people who are doing it really well and bring your gifts and talents to help them do it better.
oh,
And that's really served me well.
so we're like up leveling each other, because
Yes.
I'm sure that it has a feedback, because if you're helping her, maybe even who's, so renowned, up level even more, you're going to benefit from being part of that exchange. And then chances are it's going to flow back to you in some maybe unexpected
It's
way.
just crazy ways. Like, again, she was good at that music. I said I'm great at playing the old school, playing a CD. I was really good at playing a CD. That's about it. But we would be in auditoriums full with cancer patients and their family members, and I would say, play doodle music, and she would do that. And then I would do a visualization, imagine your healing team, and she would do that. I mean, it was and we
Wow.
found ways to work together that nobody had ever done before. We'd be in the chemo rooms, and she'd be playing, and I'd be leading them through exercises.
Wow, how beautiful. What a special thing to be a part of that alchemy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great advice. Thank you so much for sharing so many of your gifts. You bring your bright light to so many communities, and I know that you have no plans on stopping.
No, I think a good friend of mine, he and I talk about this all the time. We meet on a regular basis. He said, I'm going to be full force, so as long as I'm here, I'm doing it. And then I'll probably do it someplace else, I guess. I'm not really clear on that.
Other fields to yet be discovered.
And we probably are already, right? But those are other conversations.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Such an honor. Such an honor.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. If you want to learn more, you can visit my website for podcast and resources at hopshealingtips.com. You can also like, share, and subscribe to this channel. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and is not providing healthcare advice. Please seek guidance from your professional healthcare team should you need assistance.